Welcome to the Farms.com Risk Management Marketing School video, being sponsored and brought to you by DEKALB brand seeds, where they're trying to help farmers across Canada do a better job with that commodity marketing. In this 7th video series, we're going to look at international markets and exports and what impact they can have on grain prices. We're going to look to the past and see if we can get some insight into the future. So let's start off with the U.S. The U.S. is the largest corn producer in the globe, both corn and beans. They're, in 2011, they're going to grow about 90+ million acres of corn. That represents about 35% of global production. You can see from this chart, U.S. is ranked number 1. China actually ranked number 2. EU 27 number 3. Brazil number 4. This is thousands per metric tons, and this is 2010 year. Again, U.S. is so large that it's twice that of China. It's ranked number 2. U.S. plants about 77+ million acres of beans, also number 1 in the world. Production in the U.S., therefore, is very critical to grain prices and eventually your marketing plan. However, one can't ignore the rest of the world. We got also Brazil is ranked number 2 in soybean production globally at 70 million metric tons. Looks like 2011 is going to be a record. Argentina is ranked number 3 at 49 million metric tons. Any weather production issues in South America can also play a big role. China comes in number 4. China is the largest wheat producer in the globe. Produces about 110 to 115 million metric tons a year. You can see from this chart the EU 27 combined actually bigger than China, but China is the largest wheat producer. India comes in 3rd, United States 4th. And then let's have a quick look at the importers and exporters. Who are the largest importers and exporters around the globe? The largest importer of corn is Japan. 30% of U.S. corn is exported to Japan every year. South Korea and Mexico are ranked number 2, 3. U.S. exports the most corn around the globe. So you can see from this chart that U.S. is the largest exporter. They export about 2 billion bushels a year. Since 2004, that number really hasn't changed. A big part of that, again, 30% of that goes to Japan. Argentina ranks number 2, China number 3. Exports get a lot of press and attention, but it's, again, 2 billion bushels still represents a small piece of the pie, only 15% of the total pie in the U.S. at 13 billion bushels. Largest importer and exporter of beans, the largest is the U.S. Exporter, followed by Brazil and Argentina. 70% of all U.S. soybeans are exported to guess who? China. And Japan is ranked number 2. So you can see from this chart, exports have continued to go up the last 4 or 5 years, largely because of China. China is the wild card with 1.3 billion people, 1.1 billion hogs, 50% of global production. That increased demand for feed and food as incomes rise over time is going to continue to pose problems. And then the largest importer of wheat is Egypt, followed by Japan and Brazil. Here's the U.S., also ranked quite high. The largest exporter of wheat is the U.S., followed by Australia and Japan. So geopolitical risks, macroeconomic events, global events, all kind of the same. In the beginning of 2010, we had this worry about the falling euro-dollar due to the European debt crisis. So this is one geopolitical risk that the markets had to climb that wall of worry. We've been doing that since the beginning of 10, and we've actually moved higher. Since the beginning of 2011, well, sorry, we'll just go back to this one chart here on the euro-dollar. So you can see the euro-dollar falling here since the beginning of 2010. It's recovered a little bit, and that's actually spurring on the economy, exports. It's actually helping global recovery. So understanding how this all impacts global economies, local economies, U.S. dollar, that sort of thing can have a true meaning to those grain prices. Again, that falling euro-dollar increases fears that a global recovery might be jeopardized, again increasing that volatility. Since the beginning of this year, we've had some unrest, civil unrest. Started in Tunisia, then Egypt, now spread to Libya, and the U.S. is now starting to get involved with some military action because they don't want to spread it to Saudi Arabia. The worry is that it's going to spike oil, and that could damage some of that global economic recovery. The U.S. cannot afford oil prices to go to $150 a barrel for an extended period of time. The Saudis represent or control about 30% of all global oil exports. Again, this has created increasing fears that a global economic recovery will slow, thus increasing that volatility once again. We've talked about volatility in past video series, and then again, is something that this newest event is almost impossible to predict, but this natural disaster in Japan, earthquake, tsunami, nuclear reactor meltdown, again increased that fear. But I think the media is making a lot more out of it than you would think. It always gets worse before it gets better. It's never as bad as you think. And there's about 140 million people in Japan, and only about 10,000 people have died. Probably more than that have been impacted by the earthquake and tsunami, but still a small piece of that entire puzzle. So the natural reaction is just panic, and then once we calm our nerves down, we seem to get back to some common sense. And the worry really with the nuclear reactor was, is this another Russian Chernobyl situation unfolding as radiation levels started to increase? But looks like it's under control, and we're that fear is starting to ease a little bit, and perhaps that volatility has slowed down. So in summary, exports, international markets, global events, geopolitical, macroeconomic events can all have a major impact outside of North American production numbers, and can impact both prices and the volatility. Having some understanding of how all these pieces come together will help your marketing plan. It creates a lot of short-term uncertainties, unknowns, swings, and volatility, but understanding what impact these factors can have ultimately will determine how successful your marketing plan is. In our next video series, we're going to look at currencies and their impact on grain prices. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope that I've provided some light and shed some insight on how international markets, global events, exports can have on grain prices, and hopefully it can make you a better grain marketer. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching.